do this thing. Call the meeting of the St. Paul Library Board to order. Roll call.
Ballinger,
Here.
Redmond, Jalali,
Here.
Prince, Tolbert,
Here.
Yang,
Here.
Cheernaker.
Here.
5 present, 2 absent, being board member Prince and Redmond, who is excused. Item number 1, minute 23-6, approving the minutes of the December 2022 Library Board meeting.
Take a motion for approval from Ms. Yang. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
5 in favor, none opposed. The minutes are approved. Item number 2, SR 23-48, staff report on 2023 goals and 2024 needs assessment.
Director Harmon.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair Naker and Library Board members.
And Director Harmon, if you just stand right in between the 2 microphones, and you can, yeah, they should
Thank
be,
you.
yeah, there you go.
Rookie mistake.
I know.
I think there's a PowerPoint that should be somewhere.
Is it on the screen in front of you?
It is not.
Okay. Well, I think we have it as an attachment in
You do? Okay.
Registar, I think. Yep, I'm looking at it. I do not know how to work the technology to make it appear on the screen, so if it hasn't already been loaded up there,
Well, we'll go for it.
might just
If-
need to look at it ourselves.
That sounds fine, and then I can get a copy to you afterwards if that works for you.
And if Media Services happens to be listening through the airwaves and wants to come help us, they are welcome to do that. But why don't you start in the meantime?
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today about the St. Paul Public Library. So, city ordinance requires the library director to present a needs assessment to the library board with a list of the director's priorities, which is the purpose of my presentation today. In late 2022, the St. Paul Public Library modified our mission and vision based on community feedback. In particular, we added the word participate to our mission. Something's happening there. Oh, somebody's clicking. Okay.
Amazing.
I'll continue. We did this. We added the word participate to highlight our commitment to resident participation in library services. We're committed to working with community members to create services important to their lives. We do this on an everyday basis as part of our daily work, and we do it in all of our significant projects, some of which you'll hear about today. Our vision changed slightly too, to recognize how important our city goals are for a city that works for all, by adding that critical phrase to our vision for the St. Paul Public Library. So our mission is to welcome all people to connect, learn, participate, and grow. And our vision is a city that works for all, where libraries bring people together to experience hope and unlock new possibilities. As you know, we are in a time of leadership transition at the St. Paul Public Library. So in my current role, I created a 1-year strategic focus, articulating some of the larger goals we have as a library, as well as naming specific work we will undertake this year. In particular, you'll see a focus on our work this year on improving digital connectivity, welcoming people of all ages to participate in library services, collaboratively focus on safety in libraries with specific projects underway. Other goals this year include moving forward together as a staff team by reigniting energy, joy, and deepening trust, increasing the consistency of our anti-racist and equity behaviors, and continuing to transform our library spaces for the best possible library experiences. As a team, and as I think ahead to 2024 and the budget planning cycle, there are a number of needs in the forefront of our minds. We will continue to optimize safety in libraries. We will be both proactive and responsive, and we will continue to partner strongly with our city, county, and community colleagues in this work. We are focused on investing in facilities to continue to help cultivate conditions for safety in our communities. The very presence of our 13 buildings and our bookmobile across the city is Community First public safety strategy. Not everyone in our communities have returned to our library spaces since 2020. We remain focused on offering services so community members can resume their pre-pandemic library habits and build new habits if they didn't exist before. We know this will require investments of staff time, communication, and outreach efforts in many creative ways. As part of this work, we're focused on creating library experiences that restore social and cultural connections among community members, both in our spaces and in our community. Experiences can look like Read Brave, in which intergenerational community members come together to read about brave topics and engage in the power of talking about stories together. And resources can ensure that when people come into our spaces, they have the resources they're looking for: books, movies, and more, and music, and all the things. We are also focused in advancing our digital equity work. Earlier this year, you heard a presentation about the connectivity blueprint that we are engaged in with community members and, most importantly, our partners in the Office of Technology and Communications here in the city. Equity and inclusion and anti-racism is always embedded throughout everything we do. We know we don't get to do this for, hi. Yes.
I called for backup.
Is it loaded? No, I didn't know it needed to be loaded. Where do you have it saved? On my drive. Can I log in? No? I don't. Oh, maybe. We can try. Sorry. Let's try. Restart. Restart. Okay. Oops. Okay. 1 second. Sorry, everyone. Thanks for your patience. Here we go. There we go.
Sorry, team, just thought it was worth a try.
So funny, we can hear everything.
Become very aware of that clock inside.
Where's that knocking coming from?
We can talk about what books are reading.
What are you reading? What are you reading?
I got a couple on. I just got hooked on books on tape. It's amazing. I put them on all the time now.
Did you finish Carol?
No, it wasn't. It didn't let me borrow long enough. It's 48 hours. Can't do that in 21 days. Because there's so many on the wait list.
You need to write number 5. Don't worry, we just took a pause because we were having technical difficulties with the PowerPoint. We didn't.
I just listened.
I'm sure it'll work now with
The
your
Great
presence.
Oh, you just read that?
I am so sorry. I got stuck in a
And
meeting.
then Beloved is on my list next. And then this letter. Peter told me.
Shane teaches Gatsby for a year.
See, okay.
I read it, but I didn't appreciate it. And I heard it this time and I wonder. I was like, this is fantastic.
I mean, those books are totally wasted on.
There's some really good lines and just observations. But I don't know why I read it so long. Because I don't have time to sit and read my books. By the time I have time, I fall asleep.
I don't know how to listen to books on tape as we talked about it. I just can't.
I do it. I want
Just 1 sec.
to do chores.
I have a dog and I don't do chores. Just kidding.
When do you read at night? Like, how do you find the
I
time?
put my headphones
Oh,
like
Is audio?
Yeah, just to have
Are we thinking this is going to happen, or?
It's happening.
Oh.
Yeah, if you don't mind waiting a few
Okay,
minutes.
I just wasn't sure where we were.
Yeah, there's progress.
Okay,
Thank you for your patience.
no problem. I just thought if it was hopeless, we should proceed as we do.
Oh.
some of these are books that,
Oh, and then you just click on and then just listen.
yeah, and it tells you how long you're like, this book's 7 hours.
And where's that on?
Maybe it's through Melson.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not. But then what's that? I haven't. Library. St. Paul. I think there's a library in Newport. Near the Washington County.
You know what
Oh, it is. Same. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you have to subscribe to it, and then.
Ever since I started like looking at scared Archer eyelashes, and Glamnetics just started giving me my ads.
Yeah, it's been really good. I've been having a positive experience.
So you could just be.
So I want to take a deeper dive into safety at the libraries, and the timing feels appropriate after the update that some folks had this morning from Brooke Blakey and their colleagues from the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Parks and Recreation. So our goal in the library this year about safety is to collaboratively focus on safety in libraries. And there are some images, but you'll just have to use your mind, or if you're on Legislar, it should come up. But there are amazing things happening in our libraries every day. And so, I include some of these photos in the presentation because as I begin to talk about safety, the experiences behind the beautiful images happen every day in our space. And anytime you come into the library, you'll see community members, and you'll see them using library spaces, accessing library resources, and working alongside community members. These experiences are the beautiful things that happen every day. They are what community first public safety looks like in our city. These are not just on our best day, these happen every day. And when we bring folks together to meet with their neighbors in our free meeting room spaces, when we welcome youth to create together in Fun Lab or Create Tech, when we offer computer classes to help job seekers, when you see the bookmobile on its way to Lake Phalen, when you see parents and grandparents playing and singing and dancing together in story times, that's neighbors coming together, using taxpayer-funded services for learning and for joy. And at the same time, all these wonderful things are happening. Our library workers are also grappling with numerous safety challenges. Public libraries are some of the only deeply accessible indoor public spaces in our communities, and it means we welcome everyone as long as they're able to follow the library rules of conduct. You've heard many other people say it, and I'll say it again. Everything that shows up in our communities shows up in our libraries. They are public spaces, libraries, that are used by members of the public, and the tension we must all continue to hold in this work is about navigating access and boundaries, what's permitted in our spaces, and how we continue to work with our community and city partners to find that balance on an everyday basis. Each of the challenges I've listed here have occurred in our library spaces over the last year, and we and our partners have both worked proactively to prevent them when possible and responded to them when they occurred. Some of those challenges we've experienced over the last year are violence and threats of violence, racist comments, sexual harassment, medical incidents, situations of substance abuse, and untreated or undertreated mental health. These are challenges we're experiencing in all of our public spaces, not just our libraries. The next few slides will provide an overview of the resources allocated towards safety and security in libraries. So the library's general fund includes $135,000 annually for safety and security. This line item is in the services category, which generally does not receive inflationary increases. The library has been proactive and diligent in making the most of the general fund resources that are allocated, and that allocation has not increased in some time. Our current spending is focused on George Latimer Central Library, Rondo, and Rice Street, and we have shifted these resources over time from a police presence prior to 2019 to a current approach that uses contract security and community ambassadors. In 2022, we also used budget savings to support additional contract security, and we are doing the same this year as well. It is the library's existing general fund allocation that pays for both contract security and the library community ambassadors. Thanks, Brent. Wow, she's got it.
Director Harmon, just while we take this pause,
Yeah.
are the library community ambassadors the community ambassadors that we know of and they're stationed in libraries?
That's correct.
Okay.
They are the community ambassadors, and they are stationed in 2 of our libraries. There's also some additional safety investments, indirect and direct, made to contribute to all of these contribute to safety conditions in libraries. Thank you so much for supporting additional funding in the general fund for our substitute staffing pool that is being used to ensure safe staffing levels when staff members are not at work. It is one of the many successes of our first quarter of 2023. We also have one 1.0 FTE library social worker, which is a contracted position. Partnerships with community agencies, including Radius Health, People Incorporated, Women's Advocates, and others, are critical to our work on a daily basis. Last year, our Staff Safety Committee did excellent work in reorganizing existing safety resources for staff, developing a calendar of safety topics for team leaders to review monthly, and revising our internal banning guidelines. City partners continue to be so critical to our work, including the Office of Neighborhood Safety, Fire Department, St. Paul Police, City Attorney's Office, Emergency Management, Parks and Recreation, and building upgrades and renovations that enhance safety through design. The design for the new building at Hamlin, which I'll talk about later today, is a great example of how we're designing our facilities to be safe for community members and for staff. As I mentioned, our partnerships with the city have been one of the areas that I am most proud of in the last year. and the alignment with the city's Community First public safety work. Myself and our Deputy Director of Public Services are on the biweekly Community First public safety meetings to coordinate and get information. COAST and CARES resources, those are our teams in the police and fire department, are in libraries working with community members on a regular basis via CROP, which is our community resource outreach program that has drop-in resources, calls to 911, and calls to CARES directly for support. The Office of Neighborhood Safety and Emergency Management are on our project leadership team, and the Neighborhood Safety Community Council is advisory. We are in regular collaboration between libraries and parks and the Office of Neighborhood Safety on daily service and safety issues. Woohoo! Thank you. Do I use this? Okay. Thank you. Okay, got it. Okay, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit here. That's okay. There's the pictures. So these are the things
sure
that are
it'll be
happening in our
imminent. There we
space
go.
every day. Yeah, here we go. We're back on track.
Thank
with,
you. Thanks,
with community members. Thank you so much, Bryn. It's okay. I'm happy to have it. So these pictures are about safety just as much as my other PowerPoint slides here. There's the additional safety investments right there and our alignment. So I want to talk a little bit about a new project we have underway that we're calling the Library Optimal Response Project. In 2022, the city approved $1.5 million in ARPA investment, and we are grateful for the support from Mayor Carter in integrating libraries, because that's really what we're talking about here, integrating libraries as part of the overall Community First public safety work in St. Paul. Our phase one of the project is a review, an assessment of current practices in safety in the library right now, and the development of a library safety specialist role, including job duties and reporting structure. Phase two will be hiring those specialists and piloting the implementation of that role as a resource in libraries as an addition to the overall complement of staff that are in our building. This project was envisioned from a foundation of staff and community input, and the project itself will incorporate more feedback from community members, stakeholders, and library staff members as it gets going. The deliverables this year will include, as I mentioned, a scan of comparable systems, a review of existing tools, and community engagement. We'll conduct design sprints to envision a new model, write position descriptions, policy and procedure recommendations, training, and a communications and engagement plan. The project is already underway, and we anticipate new positions to be on board later this year. Our consulting team is led by SDK Communications, who will lead strategy, engagement, and project management, and it includes subcontractors as advisors from Fairline Security, Touch Outreach, a community violence interruption program, and the Dispute Resolution Center with their expertise in restorative justice. Other than existing staff time, this project is completely funded by city ARPA funds allocated through the library, and these funds will go through 2025. It's very exciting and important for us to run the project in the way that we are, because we're bringing in expertise from the community in a variety of different ways. So we're bringing in that restorative practices expertise from the Dispute Resolution Center, and experience with violence interrupters from the Touch Outreach, and then our partners with Fairline Security, who are bringing a more traditional building security approach. And as I say to my other library director people that I know, we're doing this in a very St. Paul way, which means that we start with community. And we start by asking, what is it that people, what makes people feel safe, right? And how can we make sure that that's how folks are gonna feel when they come into the library? And we'll be engaging library staff through that project as well. So that's the conclusion of the safety portion of this. Councilmember Naker, do you want me to take questions now on this part, or what would be helpful? And again, thank you for your patience with the technology. I'm happy to go back to other pieces if that would be helpful.
I think the anticipation made these slides even sweeter. So
Oh,
thank you.
well, very good. That's very kind.
I think that's a great point to stop and just see if there are
Yeah.
questions about safety from my colleagues. Mr. Lally.
So, just to summarize my understanding and make sure I am hearing this correctly, so we have our safety staffing pool, which you said is doing great so far, which is great to hear. And then there's a consultant team that's helping create like worker-centered and community-centered solutions, more big picture. And then there's an outreach team. Or can you help me understand of the safety
How they
plan?
all-
What are the big components and just
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. So the funding that we got this year for the substitute pool is used when our library staff are not at work for some reason. They're out sick or they're on vacation, and so we're accessing that pool to bring other staff in to make sure that we have adequate staffing levels in our buildings. So that's one element, and that will continue no matter what happens here. This project is building a new model for how we manage safety in the library. So these will be new positions that will work alongside our staff in taking the lead in response to some incidents.
And then for the consultant scope of work, is their charge to basically create a new, more comprehensive safety vision? Or I'm just trying to understand the consultant part of it. Could you
Yeah.
help me understand that more?
Yeah. So the consulting part of it is to bring in additional resources to help us pull this together. So to conduct design sprints, to lead the community engagement, and manage a project with multiple subcontractors underneath it. So library staff is really engaged in the project, but we're looking to our other partners to take a walkthrough of our spaces, for example, and identify things that we may not have the expertise to do.
So at the end of that consultant team's work, what do you hope to be different or true, or to know that it was successful and that it built on what's there?
What I would hope is that we have not had a chance to talk directly with community about what makes them feel safe in our library. And so what I hope will be different is that we'll move forward with our approach to safety really fully grounded in what we're hearing from our community members. And that, it'll be in many ways like a strategic plan for our safety work, right? So I think sometimes it's easy for us in safety work to focus on the immediate solution, and we have certainly done that, and there's a reason to do that, but it's also really important to have a plan that we're building towards. So my hope is that this is an appropriately resourced plan that we can then start building on with folks that are being hired specifically to do this safety work.
That's extremely helpful. Thank you for explaining that. And I love the approach to be really rooted in what our community is telling us and the users and everyday folks who are in our libraries. And one thing I'll also share from conversations with library workers is that I've heard repeatedly about just how worthy of an investment the library social worker has been, and also that we just need more. And so that's something that I'm also hearing, and maybe that will come up in what people share. But some of the investments here are very heavily utilized to the point that people want even more of them. And I don't know if you're hearing that, but I certainly am. I guess I'll speak for myself. So thank you for supporting those ideas, and hope to bring them back in the future to talk about some more.
Ms. Prince?
Yeah, and thanks for this presentation. It's exactly what I was hoping to learn. One of the things that came up last summer was just how concerned library staff were in terms of the safety issues. And I believe the resolution that we passed in August was very specific about including staff in the discussions about the redesign and getting their input and feedback. And I notice in terms of the project deliverables, you have a staff survey and then focus groups that look like they're probably community engagement focused. But I wonder, do we have any kind of a staff committee or sort of ongoing way for staff to be able to inform the the process as it moves forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Prince. Over the last year, we have had a staff safety committee. So they're the team that led the revisions in our library banning guidelines and also reorganized the information that's available to staff on our internal website and put together a schedule of safety topics to make sure that managers review them all the time. That team is done with their work right now, and we're waiting until we get a little bit further in our optimal response project to see what the right staff connection will be. I do want to also add that one of the significant changes that we made in the last couple of years is we talk all the time about safety now, and we heard that from our staff. I used the, we don't talk about Bruno from the movie, right? Like that, the safety was our Bruno. We were talking about it, but we need to talk about it all the time. Even if there's no immediate answer, we need to make sure that all of us are aware of it and talking about it. So at our weekly managers meetings, we're talking about it. On a regular basis, our managers are bringing that into the staff conversation with their huddles.
That's good, because that is a really important way of building trust going forward, so I really appreciate that. I think all of us can say that our library staff are such a gift to the city. They're so thoughtful, they're so committed, and so using their, they have informed the decision to get rid of fines and fees, and they, brought forward the idea of the lactation spaces and that program. And over the years, I feel like it's our library staff that have really guided the city in figuring out what a modern library should look like. And so I want to make sure that they are continuing to feel a high level of involvement, engagement, and trust that their input is valued.
I share my colleagues' enthusiasm for not only this plan, but the process that you're using to do it. I'm just curious, of the 1.5 million, how have we allocated, how much of that is going into the plan, and how much, you mentioned it goes through 2025, how much is available to help with implementing the plan? Because I always hate when we do this great planning process and then we've run out of money to actually do the things.
Thanks, Board Chair Naker. The vast majority is for the staffing and the implementation. A very small percentage is for the development of the plan.
Okay, that's good. Other questions about safety before we move on? All right, let's do it.
All right. So the other update I want to provide is on our Transforming Library project. And so our capital investments, our 2023 goal is to transform library spaces to allow for the best possible library experience. And I just have to show these photos again. Not only do these images demonstrate the important role library services play in our community, they are also illustrations of the importance that brick and mortar investments across our city that will continue to require investments and important conversations across our city about the evolution of library services and buildings and the importance of transforming our existing library buildings into centers of neighborhood resilience, yes, but also neighborhood dreams and neighborhood futures. All of our neighbors deserve the very best library services and buildings that we can deliver in this city. At a time when some are asking if we still need libraries, this library board and this city administration and this community have answered a resounding yes. We absolutely do, and we are committed to continuing to invest in services and buildings. We're also profoundly grateful for the partnership of the Friends of the St. Paul Public Library, including their executive director, Beth Burns. From the beginning, Beth and her board have walked hand in hand with the library and the city in their belief in the importance of transforming libraries, but also in their willingness to support this incredible public-private partnership with their commitment to a capital campaign to raise funds on behalf of library services and spaces. Our Transforming Libraries work has been ongoing since 2018, when the library first did our community engagement work to inform our strategic direction. In 2019, we conducted more community engagement to inform our facilities direction, which was complete in 2020. And over the past few years, to inform and identify direction for transforming our specific library spaces, we've heard from over 3,000 community members. This included 664 people attending or providing feedback at community open houses, listening sessions, design workshops, and open office hours, and over 2,300 surveys at pop-up events and online. Our most visible public-facing work took place last year and in 2021 when the city allocated $8.1 million for Hamlin from city CIB funds, and the library worked with an artist cohort and our architect partner, LSE, to complete final designs for Hamlin, Riverview, and Hayden Heights. Since you last heard from us about this work, we've been working with our architect partners, LSE, to prepare construction documents. We've talked the most publicly about the 3 libraries we've identified to invest in: Hamlin Midway, Hayden Heights, and Riverview. But our vision also includes investments in all library locations through creating technology-rich spaces and places for families to play and learn together in all library spaces. Our technology must evolve to keep pace with the needs of community members. All 13 public library locations and their meeting rooms will be enabled with technology to facilitate work and collaboration with outlets, projectors, video capability, and more. We are hearing every day from our community members who are turning to their library for things like online conferences for their children's teachers, appointments with their health providers, and virtual visits with family members who are incarcerated. The other component of our project is our commitment and vision for play and learn spaces. Even in a library without an official play space, we see children playing all the time. Have you ever seen them selling books, right? Or running their own little library or mailing books into something that they're pretending is a mailbox. So we know that play is happening, and we know that play is the first and most important work of children. Investments in play and learn spaces in our libraries can transform libraries from that stereotype to vibrant, interactive, family learning spaces. So all 13 St. Paul Public Library locations will transform our children's areas to include spaces for quiet and loud play that spark curiosity, imagination, and wonder. Later this month, in partnership with Heart of America, we'll be unveiling our latest play and learn space at the Rondo Library. This refreshed space will have new elements for creative and imaginative play, like an interactive light wall and an interactive mural by local artist Emma Eubanks that includes affirmations from our partners, the Network for the Development of Children of African Descent, and more books. So, still got the books, and you can play with them as well.
Dr. Harmon, Mr. Tolbert had a question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think you made a really important point talking about how people are using our libraries to access virtual visits with their doctors.
Yeah.
To get job help, to do other things like that. And I suspect there's more and more people who are using the library instead of working from home. They're doing it from the library, maybe. How are we facilitating private internet access? Because something like a doctor's visit, you wouldn't want to be in a computer lab necessarily talking to your doctor. Are we facilitating the space and the computer access for people who need to use computers in the library to have those virtual doctor visits or things like that?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Tolbert. It's exactly what we're trying to figure out how to do. So you're absolutely right. When you don't need as much privacy, you can be right there next to somebody. But for a healthcare visit, we are looking at options either to think about purchasing some kind of, it's going to sound silly, but like a pod, right? Some kind of a privacy element, or loan out laptops in our libraries that you can then use in study areas. Most of our libraries have individual or small study rooms, but that is something that is right on our radar and really trying to think creatively about what the funding for that looks like. And I think this is a good example of, we don't even know yet what all the technology needs of the library are going to be over the next 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years, but we have to stay close to that because that's what people are turning to us to do.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I just think when we're doing these remodels, I know there's a push to open space up and for people to be seen, and for safety purposes, I understand that, but both for people who want private rooms to just work, especially because, you know, some people, I personally enjoyed studying in coffee shops. I know not everybody could do that, but, you know, in libraries, to have that space, but also more and more as people need to use it to do other private matters that you wouldn't want to forecast to the world. So just hopefully bring that eye as we renovate these places.
Thank you. So as you know, last fall, we announced the final designs for our 3 library projects that our community members selected. There will be a new library building for Hamlin Midway neighborhood and renovations of existing buildings for Hayden Heights and for the Riverview Library. Universally, we heard community members advocate for city capital investment in libraries, investments that provide universal access, additional intergenerational services and programs and meetings, good sightlines, and services on all one floor for safety. And we heard strongly from community members echoing our ongoing message in this work. Our libraries are well-loved, well-used, and well-worn. It's really important for me to show the exteriors, and this is our Riverview Library, the plan for the Riverview Library, but it's also important to see the interiors because that's where the magic of library services and experiences happen in our neighborhoods. And it's where our library staff do their best work and where our community members gather.
Director Hartman, just before you move on from these 2 beautiful pictures, I have to tell you, as I've told you before, just again, how excited I am about this redesign for Riverview. I was at a community meeting just last week, and someone, as we were talking about Riverview, said, you know, it would be great if it could just be a bit more accessible in the redesign. And I was so proud to be able to say that is like literally the point and the main new feature of Riverview is that it will be so much more, not only accessible, but accessible with dignity. So I'm very excited about this.
Thank you. So community members, this is Hayden Heights, community members told us they love our libraries and our services, and they have big dreams, and they envision big possibilities for our services in these spaces. Dreams and possibilities that the existing buildings cannot provide as is. This image of Hayden Heights, which shows a significantly opened up front portion, better use of the existing space. This doesn't show it, and an outdoor reading garden as well. I am personally thrilled again to share the final designs also for you for Hamlin Midway. This new building will provide opportunities for community members to meet, learn, and play together. At libraries every day, we both honor the past and we provide equitable, accessible, future-focused library services that will keep our city libraries strong for the next 100 years. Our designs for transforming libraries, and in particular Hamlin Midway, will help ensure we're building library services for the future of our city, including functionality, size, accessibility, sustainability, flexibility, and responsible financial stewardship. So after extensive communication, engagement with community members, and a team of internal and external experts, the city's determined that a rebuild of the Hamlin Midway Library helps us achieve those critical community needs. The building designs were informed by extensive community engagement, including a series of virtual and in-person open houses, as evidenced by 3,000 participants who engaged in the design process and shared their desire for library spaces that are safe, affirming, and comfortable for all cultures, abilities, and communities. While it may affect the project timeline, the recent designation of the Hamlin Midway Library to the National Register of Historic Places does not prevent the city from proceeding with our plan to build a new dynamic library that meets the needs of the growing community. Myself and library staff are so excited about this new library building. the opportunity to listen to community members' desires for a new space that uniquely reflects the culture of the neighborhood while honoring and including elements of its history. So the existing building's preserved stone arch entryway will lead to a meeting room. Salvaged brick will be used in the interior. Salvaged wood from the existing building stage is being used in the community room. And the diamond brick pattern that was discovered in the existing library's original draft documents is now giving a unique look to the new library's exterior. So through a citizen petition, the Hamlin Midway Library has been placed on the National Register of Historic Places. Being listed to the National Register of Historic Places does not prevent us from moving forward with a new building. It does, however, delay our original schedule. The library is now required to complete an environmental assessment that will provide a brief analysis and overview of the environmental impacts for the project, which we have begun. The library is working closely with a number of city departments to understand how the designation might impact our process. The city is committed to following the required process and committed to a transformational new building for the Midway Library. It is so inspiring to hear from community members who have had and continue to have fond memories of the time spent in this building in just the way that it is now. But we also heard from community members who have asked us, as the library and the city, to give them more spaces for families to gather together. A deeply accessible space where all of us get to walk through the same door together. We've heard from our staff members that they want a library on just one floor to provide safety and improved workflow. And I've heard from our maintenance staff that there is literally no amount of money they can continue to invest to shore up walls that are crumbling, water leaking into the basement, and all the other physical problems these buildings have, especially Hamlin, which is in the worst shape physically. The task ahead of us is a big one, to honor and remember the past in our public buildings and move forward with library spaces for our community now and for the community we will have in 100 years. Nobody knows better than libraries how to both honor and preserve elements of the past while making room for the future. It is the work we do every single day. While we are following the process outlined for us in this project, we're also preparing the existing building for construction. This includes completing construction documents, closing to the public, packing and moving the collection, and other tasks needed to decommission the building. We're moving ahead with both of these processes in order to make the best use of available city funds, minimize escalating construction costs, and deliver this library to residents as soon as possible. I am so excited to deliver this library, which is the one that Midway neighbors asked for, to the community. It has been so meaningful to hear how much library services mean for residents of our community and to hear about the memories they associate with this library. We've certainly heard from a few members of our community who don't agree with the design their neighbors selected, and they would prefer to preserve the existing building without any changes. But we are building libraries and library spaces for the next generation. We're passionately committed to doing this for this library, a library that is deeply accessible, has room for all the services our community members have asked for. We need, and this library deserves, the best possible library building to deliver our services. Update on the funding. So as I mentioned before, the opportunity this work holds is unlike anything else in the city right now, a true private-public partnership in which city and philanthropy partners, our friends, share the same vision for transforming libraries and agree to put their money where their values are. The city has $8.1 million for Hamlin available right now, and the Friends have committed to an additional $6 million for bricks and mortar for buildings from private and philanthropic sources. And our continued task at the city is to identify ways to fill that gap. We are pursuing a variety of options to fill that gap for Riverview and Hayden Heights. Options for city funding include city CIB, the Capital Improvement Deferred Maintenance Funds, state library construction grants, that's dependent on state bonding and cash bill in the application process, congressionally directed spending, and other government grants, including one that the Friends submitted for us in the fall to the National Endowment for the Humanities. As I conclude my presentation, I want to make sure that you get to see our mission and our vision up here on the screen. At the end of the day, the library's mission is to welcome all people to connect, learn, participate, and grow, and that we believe, like I know all of you do too, that a city can work for all, where libraries bring people together to experience hope and unlock new possibilities. Thanks, and I'll take questions.
Thanks, Director Hartman. Ms. Jalali?
Yeah, I guess I want to thank you for your clarity on this long-running project that's in my ward with the Midway Library, and I would like to offer clarity in turn. I am ready for a new library. The community I represent is ready for a new library. This is extremely overdue. It represents nearly 4 years of community process that my office has personally worked on, including going to where people live, listening to residents who are disabled, who use a wheelchair, who live in public housing, who are from all backgrounds of life, folks that we talk to outside grocery stores, outside the Midway Cub Foods, neighborhood restaurants, all these different pieces that shape the vision in addition to online engagement, the virtual, the in-person, all these things are what's underpinning that. We just can't talk about the safety conversation, then move on from that and talk about this without connecting the two. The more I understand the building, the more it is clear to me it can't be safer unless it is expanded in on one floor where there's a clear line of sight across the actual building, where our workers can see what's going on, so that the kids who are there are having a safe experience. Safety just in terms of the condition the building is in. There are times where you can just smell what feels like mold or air that's contaminated, where you can see cracks and rainwater coming in, things that just are really below the standard I think anyone should have to experience at a library. I just feel really excited for a space that's going to be bright, that's clean, that's new, that is there for kids and families. There's more community space under the new design. This is a thing I hear about all the time, is our community wants to engage. They want to have conversations that just bring people together to talk about things that we all care about. There aren't as many public spaces as there need to be to have those meetings. And a lot of the meetings I've been to have been in the basement of that library. And I'm excited to be able to have those meetings through sunlit windows and with the view of the street and our neighbors coming in. There's a sustainability reason why it matters. There's the energy costs over time. There's the deterioration of the building's infrastructure. And this is not the least thing, sorry, but I'm saying it towards the end, that there's just no way to improve the accessibility in a dignified way without the level of investment and vision that we're talking about. I have friends who are ashamed to have events there because they feel like they are asking people who use a wheelchair or who have a mobility challenge to enter the building in these marginalized ways that just not only are logistically very challenging, but it's just not respectful. I think the context for this project is in a neighborhood that has weathered a lot of change and weathered a lot of difficult things in the time I've been our councilwoman. And we are resilient, we are growing, and this is a space that we need. So I want to offer just equal clarity from my end as someone who's worked very hard on the council side to support the engagement, listen to my constituents, read thousands of comments, all the things that we've done. I am very encouraged to hear that we can follow the processes under the new designation, that there is a path to being able to complete additional steps and ultimately deliver this resource to the community. I really appreciate your leadership. I want to recognize former library director Catherine Penkert, who I worked hand in hand with on this and who is in the room here today in presence, even though she's not physically here, because this reflects her work as well that you have been so willing to take on, and I just want to personally thank you for that. And I also appreciate the Friends of the Library being here today. I don't think we should just glaze over the fact that there's $6 million in additional private resources that are willing to come to this this very, very necessary city investment. That is a tremendous amount of resource, and the community that elected me expects me to mobilize that for the good of our people. So thank you, and I just wanted to offer my comments since it's been a minute since we've had an update on this project. I remain committed to the future, as do you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mr. Lally. Ms. Yang?
Thank you, Chair Naker. Well, I wanted to say I'm so excited about everything that's happening in our St. Paul Public Libraries. I just really love the partnership and the commitment that we have from the Friends. This wouldn't be possible at all without that partnership. And so thanks, Beth, you and your team, for everything that you all do. For Hayden Heights Library, like, our community in the East Side is so excited about it. I can't tell you how many times I've connected with constituents who have lived in the East Side longer than however old the Hayden Heights Library is, and they're like, this is so long overdue. And so, in addition to the renovation of the Hayden Heights Library, like, Eastsiders are really excited about working to get the Duluth and Case Rec Center and also Hayden Heights Rec Center rebuilt too. So it's a really big vision, and it's something that I know we will be able to achieve long term, and it's why I say right now is a really exciting time to be living in the East Side overall, because of the really amazing work being done and the push from the community and also from our office too. So just wanted to really name that, and that I really support everything that's happening, all the work being put into the Hayden Heights Library. The slide that you had about filling the gap, the financial gap, like, I didn't see anything about like state funding. So I was wondering, can you talk a bit more about what kind of conversation has been happening with our state legislators, or is there a push to get any state dollars in for our libraries here at all?
Thank you, Councilmember Yang, for the comment and also for the question. So our efforts have been focused on the state library construction grant. So that is a statewide process, a competitive process for public libraries across the state of Minnesota. Library Legislative Day was the end of February, and so Beth, as well as her board members, and then some of our library staff as well, went and met with some of our legislatures, specifically about St. Paul, but also just about support for library construction elements. And I know it's also been a conversation around federal congressional directed funding in the city as well.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, okay. I missed your second bullet point there. So it looks like there is a push to get state funding for the renovation and for the libraries. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Prince?
Yeah. Regarding Hayden Heights, I too am very excited that we're getting something meaningful done at that important location, which is so close to the Heights redevelopment area, where we're expecting to build over 1,000 homes. And I just wondered, in terms of, and I appreciate Ms. Yang's question about if we're going to be seeking state and federal money, so thank you for that answer. Also, are we going to be looking for that funding in CIB, or what is the schedule for being able to move forward on funding that library?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Prince. So we are still in the process of identifying funds, right? So the schedule for Hayden Heights and for Riverview would be when funding is available. So the list that's up here on the screen are the options that we're pursuing. So we have those available to us and are still in conversation with our city colleagues about where that funding can come from, including a couple of the National Endowment for Humanities grant that I mentioned here, which we hope to be hearing back about later this month. So couple options, and we'll wait to see which of those pan out, and that'll determine the construction schedule for Hayden and for Riverview.
Okay, and in terms of applying through CIB, is there currently a project moving through CIB, through the CIB process?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Prince. I'd have to defer to my colleagues in OFS, but I don't believe that there's a maintenance CIB process this year, but not a building project. But I don't want to speculate, so I can get more information on that and get back to you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Director Hartman, for this update. I it sounds like there's a lot of interest around the table in hearing updates on the capital campaign, on the construction, and I'm sure also being in support of the Friends efforts and your efforts. So if you can share with us information on an ongoing basis about how the campaign is going and how we can all support it, that would be great. Otherwise, if there are no other questions from my colleagues, I want to thank you for this really helpful update. It's exciting to see all the great work that's happening in our libraries and the way that you're doing it with both community and with staff collaboratively. So until next time, thank you so much, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
I need to go